Hey everybody, Dr. John, nurse practitioner with Island Direct Primary Care, and I have friend Katie here with Pegasus Accounting. And this is a time of year where finances and accounting is a big part of our everyday life, isn't it?
Yes, extremely.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and I was hoping that today you would kind of be able to give us a little overview or some insight on how to make sure that we plan accordingly so that we don't have increased stress during this time of year. So if you could just kind of maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, kind of give us a little summary of what we can do to kind of make sure we're not overstressed in preparing for tax season.
Absolutely. So the first part is to start as soon as possible. So with my clients, I actually start preparing for taxes in November, typically. So as prepared as you can get and as far advanced as possible, that's better. So like right now is the time to get your bookkeeping together if you are run a business. As you get, you either get 1099s or W-2s, any information from your banks, your retirement accounts, as you collect them. One of my favorite ways to actually keep them all together is nowadays you can actually scan your documents on your phone. My favorite app is Dropbox. So you can download that app, it's free, and then you use your phone and you just take a picture of the document, put it on the app, and then you can kind of store it there until you send it to your tax preparer or however you're preparing your taxes. And so instead of panicking on April 14th and trying to find all of the different mail you received throughout the tax season and trying to collect it all together last minute for your preparer, you have it all ready to go.
Now, from a personal perspective, there's lots of resources out there online, TurboTax, et cetera, et cetera. You have was H&R Block and all those kind of things. And then businesses, surely there's opportunity to seek individual counsel like yourself for that big difference between LLC, S Corp, C Corp, and who they should go looking for.
Between those three and who they should go looking for it, not necessarily by your tax entity like that. I would more so it's about first off, when do you need a tax professional? So
Great question.
before you go running to
Now,
TurboTax, before you go running to TurboTax and H&R Block, they do in the tax space. They do have notorious reputations of kind of errors, missing things. Because number one, they're big companies. They hire people are going in and out of that company all the time. Their quality control isn't great. And then especially with TurboTax, it's more reliant on figuring things out yourself and then putting it into that. And so you're relying on your own accounting knowledge more than anything else. And so I would say for those to be entirely safe, there's only a couple types of people. If you have W-2 income and that's it, that may be a situation in which TurboTax is fine. Maybe if you have that and you're a full-time student, you just have the student expenses. But for many other situations, even if you're a child, if you have like retirement accounts in your parents' name, usually any kind of complicated situation you want a tax preparer. Now, when it comes to like the different types of tax preparers, it is a common perception that you need an EA or a CPA. That's not entirely true. What
EA is?
that is an enrolled agent. So an EA is certified by the IRS to do taxes, and they're certified to be able to represent you like in court and in front of the IRS. So that's in a situation like you're getting audited, you need to go to court, you want at that point an EA or a CPA because they're qualified to do that. But when it comes to preparing returns, there is not a lot of each state has different rules about the qualifications, and that's why people like EAs and CPAs, because it's like a standardized system for testing. But even then, that doesn't make them entirely, it doesn't guarantee service, and it doesn't always guarantee that they won't make errors, because you could be a CPA and not work with tax returns in 20 years, and you can still be like a CPA. You just have to continue with your continuing education credits. And so with that, it's about on the other end of the spectrum, you just want to make sure that they've been tested, they have real world experience, maybe they've worked with a more experienced professional, not that they just woke up one day and said, I'm going to prepare taxes. So that's kind of like the range there when you're looking at experience. And so within that, there's so many different choices.
That's awesome. Well, I know for me in our practice, we've been through a couple accounting practices because we don't understand all the rules of engagement, especially when the pandemic came along. We were growing. We had part-time W-2, full-time W-2, these kind of things. But we weren't losing money. We were growing, and so it was a tough time navigating that. So we can really relate to the fact of having someone who's personal and knowledgeable and kind of forward thinking about how to best put individuals and businesses in a position to where they're maximizing their income. And I think that's really no problem paying taxes. That's kind of the country we live in, but not nearly as high as other countries. But at the same time, we all want to maximize our income. And so working with organizations like Pegasus Accounting gives you that opportunity to, to really understand what the rules are and what the rules of engagement are, and reduce your stress so that you don't have increased illness, right? And so that's, stress has a tremendous effect on your daily life. So, 1, 2, 3. All right, Katie. In your words, top 3 tips to prepare an individual or have an individual prepare for a company like yours so that they're not stressed out during tax season. What are they?
Instead of 3, a million comes to mind.
Right.
Okay. For an individual, so the first one is being prepared ahead, scanning in your documents, trying to get that all in one place. Because there's an old, the way it used to be is you could take your shoebox of receipts and go to your nearest tax preparer and then they'll organize it for you. We are quickly moving away from that. Now most accountants are virtual. And so getting it, digitizing the documents as you go, a lot of times you're going to get your W-2s and your 1099s online. That will speed up the process quickly. When I start working with a client, I send them, I review their last year's return to make sure that everything is good to go, that there wasn't any errors last year, see what from last year is going to affect this year. And I also send them what's called a tax organizer. And so it's a little questionnaire of what happened throughout the year. Do you have any dependents? How do you file? What's your personal information? And so that helps to keep things nice and organized. If you run a business, the very first thing I need is a completed set of books, which I also do bookkeeping, so I can help clients with that. Or if nothing else, they either need to do it themselves or have their current bookkeeper employee have that all ready to go, because without that, I can't even start. A lot of the other things we'll figure out like along the way, and my job is to also try to ask as many questions as possible to see if there's anything you missed or anything you don't know about. Could you get a medical expense deductions? Have you been collecting your receipts to be able to do that? Things like that.
Outstanding. So, to summarize, plan early, digitize, and are you maximizing or planning potential deductions throughout the year, and do you have proof?
Yes.
Excellent. Awesome.
Oh, that actually is one more thing about proof. I just had a situation recently. If your expenses were not in cash, a lot of times they're going to be on your bank statement. And so if you're panicking because you never collected receipts throughout the year, look at your bank statement and you can just kind of highlight the ones that you know will relate. And that's how you still have that proof even if you haven't been collecting. With cash, you always want receipts.
Gotcha. And so, yeah, we do pretty good here from that perspective. Everything's either on the credit card or the bank receipt, so we know where it's went. Occasionally, with some of our philanthropy, and we got to go get a gift card. Like we went out and got a couple $400 gift cards last year, and you go to Publix and you get $400 gift cards. You just get a cash receipt, and so those are the tough ones where you can just write on the receipt what it's for, so that they know, right? And it's that simple. And then you scan it in to Dropbox or whatever software program you use.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us in, helping our community and our patient panel, giving them some tips on how to reduce stress during this tax season. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.